Thanks, folks. Welcome to our music department question marks workshop. The intention here, I'm going to read a little synopsis about myself to give some context for where my questions have come from. I basically, I'll read this, but I'm Jenny. I'm the volunteer and mobile studio coordinator for CFRU in Guelph. So that has nothing to do with music departments, but I am also a musician and have temporarily been helping with music submissions. So that is where this intersection came from. I'll let Troy introduce you. He, him, they, them.
Yeah.
He, him.
Music director at CFRU. Him, been in our music department. This was just been full-time for 9 years, and I was our assistant music director for a year as well. So 10 years in the music departments doing music submissions, charts, all the points, various panels at conferences trying to help artists, projects, and heads. So yeah, that's a lot.
So I'll read my introduction. I recruited Troy because I felt like if I'm going to have any kind of session around music departments, to have somebody who's incredibly knowledgeable and has gotten to work professionally in that specific department would be a really great asset. However, I'm going to really hope in this workshop that it's going to be conversational and there's going to be contributions kind of equally spread around. So as a general kind of format for how I anticipate this working, there's paper and pens for anyone who's just arrived if you don't have a device or something that you already write on. But I centered myself in my biggest questions and points of wondering. And in some cases, prompts that maybe I feel confident that I have an answer for myself. The idea is that there's going to be a series of prompts. They're sort of broken out to music department staff or volunteers in one column, and then music or publicists, radio mail-out folks. And you can have an intersectional identity. You can be unsure if you are either of these. Possibly you think in the future you might be supporting somebody in one of these roles. So there's no pressure to feel like you have answers or thoughts on any or all of the prompts. But this basically is going to start with free writing, where you're going to use these prompts. We're going to leave these up here. It's 2:06. I'll probably leave these up here for about 7 minutes for people. And if people look up at me and they're all really definitely done writing, we might end it sooner. But you, without talking to anyone else and getting their opinion or thoughts, are going to independently answer what you are prompted to say from these prompts. And then we're going to kind of get a raise of hands of who has answered which ones. And then where we have a lot of volume of a lot of people had thoughts, then we're going to see where we have thoughts in common and where thoughts are truly divided. And we're going to explore that. So the hope is that we will organically come out of this session with a better understanding of maybe slight modifications we can make as an artist or a radio person that might benefit a lot of people. Or we may come out of here just reassured that our gray areas and our question marks are very universal, and we might not feel so bad about that. But I will read the little kind of intersectional. So basically, for the past 6 months, I've been assisting in our music department at CFRU while our music director's been on leave. This is coming from me having had roughly 20 years. I'm trying to think. 2000 is when my band started, and around maybe 2002 or 2003 would have been my first radio mail-out. So I've been wearing the hat of musician, independently sending submissions to radio stations for a lot longer than I have worked in a radio station. I first set foot in CFRU at 25 years ago as a musician and a teenager. And then, I have kind of been surrounded by this world. And I think when you're surrounded by it, it's in some ways gives you more confidence that you know what you're doing, and then also can make you feel like you know nothing when you meet more and more people. When I first sat in as a temporary kind of music submission sorter, I opened the inbox that was starting to have emails forwarded to me. And I really was pretty confident that I was a great choice for being helpful in the music department as a musician. And as the days unfolded, I became less and less confident that I knew anything. So I reached out about doing this session because I don't know if music directors are hit with that same identity crisis every day when they open their inboxes, or if they just totally know what they're doing. So I figured that it will be helpful to get some answers and thoughts, because Musicians might be just as confused as me, and music directors might be pretty sure they know what they're doing and may discover that they have solved some problems that a lot of other people have, or that they are doing something that is less common than they think. So that is the overall philosophy and structure of this. Do you have anything you want to contribute yet?
No.
Okay, so we're going to start with now it's 2:09. So I'm going to at about 2:10 to 12. I'm going to just kind of be looking for heads raised if people feel like they're done. And we have more prompts, but we just kind of broken them out for our sanity. So the prompts over here, do you feel like you know exactly what the perfect music submission would look like? If you're sifting through hundreds of submissions on a daily or weekly basis, what do you prioritize? And do you have strategies of how to find it? Do you look for, maybe recognizable names, or are you looking for the opposite, for totally new to you? And maybe what are the top pieces of information that are often not included when you're going through that would make your life easier? So that's sort of the music department, you're receiving it side. And then from the sending it side, how do you determine who you send your albums to? How do you find the contacts for the stations in the first place? Are there certain features such as uses earshot distro or accepts physical copies that are deal breakers for you? That there are things that you won't go to that station because of it, or you will only go to stations that include certain details. And you could list maybe some of what those deal breakers or essential items are. If you use the earshot distro, do you also do an email mail out? And when trying to summarize your submission in an email, what details do you always include and what do you sometimes omit? Or I could add to that that maybe you have things you are unsure if you should be including. So these are our first prompts. So any of them that you feel like you have an answer or a thought on, you can write on your piece of paper or device of choice. And we're just going to do some free writing, okay? Everyone comfortable with this idea? Yeah? People still writing or people feeling pretty good? Kind of a mix? Okay, yeah, maybe I'll watch for the couple last times. It's 2:15, so I do want to make sure we got healthy split between writing and talking. Um, okay, so in terms of which of these we're going to have a little bit more open dialogue about, can we get a show of hands for who had an answer or thought on, do you feel like you know exactly what the perfect music submission would look like? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, I got about 9, okay. That's awesome. That's all I need. If you're sifting through hundreds of music submissions, what do you prioritize? Did people have an answer for that? Okay, sweet. Okay, so it's a bit more of that one, about 10-ish people or so. Okay. 10 or 11. And what about what are the top pieces of information that people don't include? That people have? Okay. That one, so that's maybe kind of even, but it's also probably a smaller, more like list and less conversational, maybe. Okay. But that one's about, okay. So it's kind of a fairly even split, but I think maybe question number 2 got the most hands up. So I might start there for that one. And then in terms of the other side, did people have an answer for how you determine who to send your albums to? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And I'm going to give space to both columns. So we'll go with the most thoughts on a column, if that makes sense. So question 1 in the second column was about 5 people. What about, are there certain features that are deal breakers and or like, yeah, like that you always look for or you won't use? Okay, so we won't worry about that topic. If you use the Earthshot distro, do you also do an email mail out? That one, I don't know if we need to have a conversation, but maybe we could get a show of hands for who does also do an email mail out if they use the distro. Interesting. Okay. How many people use the distro? How many musicians here have submitted to the distro? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So about 5 people in the room are musicians or PR people who've submitted, and about 2 of those also send an email. So that's interesting. Okay. When trying to summarize your submission in email, what details do you always include and what do you sometimes omit? Did people have thoughts on that? Okay, okay. So I think that on the musician side is kind of maybe evenly. So maybe we'll blend the first prompt and the last prompt into sort of a more blended conversation. But we'll start with the other side since generally there's more folks in the room in that. Unless you think we should have breakout conversations, but I want to hear what people have to say. Yeah, okay.
You have interest in both.
I have interest in both. That's true. I don't want to be left out of anything. Okay. So let's start with prompt number 2. If you're submitting through hundreds of submissions on a daily or weekly basis, what do you prioritize and what are your strategies? So in no particular order, people want to put up their hand who have thoughts on this. We'll just get somebody's thoughts. And then the other folks, what I'm hoping is if you have the same feelings, you can sort of reinforce that by being like, yes, you're putting your hand up if you agree. But I also want to figure out where the points divide. So as people share ideas, rather than you saying the exact same idea, share where you might say like you're reinforcing a point, but share where you have a new or different opinion. Okay, that's how this will kind of build. So does anyone want to start with their thoughts on if you're sifting through hundreds of submissions, what you prioritize? Is that you, Jesse, if you're here? Okay.
Whether we have a program or a plan for a program for specific genres,
Okay.
how local they are, that definitely is something we look at. CanCon, obviously. And yeah, self-release, independent labels, etc. That does come into play a little bit as well. So.
Okay. So you would say specific genre of programs is like a leading thought that you're sifting for?
Because obviously I want the programs to have new music. And for planned programs, like say, for example, right now we don't have a reggae show, but historically speaking, we've had significant amounts of reggae shows.
Yeah, okay.
And there may be a reggae show in the future. We should probably not have a gap in our library of,
Okay.
years to
So am I hearing like genre led by existing shows and then genre led by making sure there's a general representation and then independent would be sort of criteria 3 that would kind of be the highest ranking?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Other thoughts?
I will kind of like look at the bigger promoters' emails first because they are typically like more likely to hound me if I don't reply to them. And then after that, I look at the like earshot, like always like newsletter, and I just like pull like a bunch of CanCon from that. And then for like individual people's submissions, stuff with MP3s and like info on whether they're swearing in the songs are way more likely to get added, and like Canadian content, obviously, and Indigenous content is like what I've heard is.
Okay, so let's see if I can articulate this back. And I should probably be typing this instead of oh, I could type it right into the doc, but I'll get so weird. Okay, no, I won't write back. Okay, so to hear back from that, so the biggest promoters kind of maybe are first, but partially because they are diligent and repetitive and hounding.
Like
Just interesting.
review.
They'll bother you. Okay, so that's part of the incentive there. They hound them. And then after that, you were saying things like, did you say if they use the distro, it's helpful? Or
Yeah.
so the distro and MP3, so then it's like a function that is helpful, like the actual kind of material sent to you, as opposed to if you have to change something or dig for it.
Wave file. I have to go through and like convert all the wave files. And I'll say like
Yeah. And then after that, like, so would that be sort of the priority order would be like biggest first, and then it would be like the ease of use, and then you'd be looking for sort of the maybe marginalized or lesser represented identities?
probably put that like higher because I feel like I am more willing to like do extra work if like an album is like Canadian Indigenous.
I like that. Okay, I am used to type, but this is gonna be useful. Okay. So this is, yeah, I think it's interesting. So the ease of use bumps people higher generally, but the willingness or comfort with like sort of putting the work in comes from a place of feeling like they could use a win or they could use
Yeah.
that extra support. So that's kind of the dance there. Okay, interesting. Yeah, okay, I should have gotten on the internet here. There we go. Okay. So, other thoughts, Troy, do you want to weigh in on?
I think I have responses to like each of those things kind of thing. So I feel like for Jesse, for instance, like you were talking about like still adding reggae if you don't have a reggae show. And I feel like as a smaller station, you might not have to do that. Is like maybe you shouldn't do that. Because if the host coming in, they're gonna want the new reggae, which once they have a show, that's when you should be adding the new reggae. And your time adding that old stuff, they can bring in their own back catalog.
I don't do that.
I know that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like in that example, like you don't want to be. I don't add stuff for certain genres we don't have that show, but I still say submit it because eventually we might have that show.
Yeah.
So at that point is when I'll start adding it because you're just taking time out of your day for those submissions if you were to do something like that. Like people bringing in their own back catalog, but it's the new stuff like that, they're gonna find that stuff on.
Yeah.
And I feel like I do agree with like doing the big ones first. Because besides hounding you, you're gonna fall behind with those promoters when they send out a lot every week. And if you want to have a good relationship with them for when they are working a record you like, you're gonna have to be doing all that stuff every week. And also the priorities of like local and indigenous releasing will take more time for.
Okay, so let's see if I'm capturing some of the kind of thoughts here. So in the case where back here it was shared that the biggest promoters for the kind of perceive the annoyance factor of like I'm gonna have to respond anyway, so I might as well get it over with. But then for you, it's also the same feeling compelled to open those, but more from like a relationship fostering or maintaining.
Yeah.
So would you both agree that you feel like an expectation that's keeping good relationships with the bigger promoter people feels like a higher priority than if it's like an individual person? Is it more like the volume of people they represent or their
Kind of.
clout?
And like, I feel like this would go into like my response if you were to send a perfect submission. Like I have the time to go around ad dates. So if you were to you're an independent person and you have an ad date, I would prioritize you with that same big promoter ad dates. And so.
Can I add a comment?
Yeah.
So, I have another comment as well, but, My perspective on that is the larger promoters anyway that make a lot of noise. I ignore them and never respond to them because they keep sending me anyway, whether I respond or not. It's the smaller promoters who are more, I feel like they're more legit and they're like a smaller little, you know.
I think for me, the relationship isn't just them sending me stuff. It's like, I want to be able to get my volunteers like guest list to a show when they're like maybe even traveling.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, there's going to be in like, I got a friend like guest list in
It's surprisingly, and they'll still send you a ticket to a show, even if you've never responded to them in the last 3 years. So, so I have a lot of attention towards that, and I never lost them, and so I feel like I have, and the other part of it is that I have so little time. Station manager, I put in an hour, maybe an hour and a half a week max, getting new content.
Honestly, I have the time to do that relationship, so for me,
yes, I don't have that.
Does anyone else have like a wildly differing feeling about the priorities? Like that comes in very, yeah.
Okay, so I kind of have like both perspectives. I don't run a music department. I'm not very involved in the radio station, but I do the charts for CHLY. I used to be a music director a long time ago in Lethbridge, and it was like passed down to me at the time that it was important to kind of shape the aesthetic of the radio station with the music that you put on playlists. So just being cognizant of like I don't know, what's cool, you're a tastemaker and you wanna kind of curate a selection and make that selection inviting to your programmers as well, get them inspired and excited about the music that it's putting on and willing to branch out and check things out just because you selected it and put it in front of it.
Cool. So the music you make available to your programmers is another type of message that you're sending to programmers. So you're trying to compel them to be interested by considering what you put there or what you've prioritized.
Yeah,
is that
they're connecting with the communities.
Yeah, awesome. I want to add like when I came in, I can be a bit spiteful. I don't mean to, but I got in and immediately the big promoters that were like flooding the inbox immediately filled me with like, you can wait. So like I literally was like looking for any independent email that was one album and that was one person. And they're like, I need this myself. I'm like, number one priority for me. And I realized how impractical it was pretty quickly, but it is interesting that as a musician, that's who resonated with me. And it felt like the people that had the resources of like big promoters already had a lot of wins going for them or like had a machine. So it is interesting when you're wearing both hats. New thoughts here.
Yeah, just with what you were saying as well, like it's good to like, take in the new stuff from kind of larger promoters, but you have to think about what people might be wanting to listen to or small radio station for as well. It could be something new, something different from like a small promoter. So I think it's beneficial to have, like program or music from like larger distributors, but also still bring focus on like that independent and new sound. So that someone who's tuning into it, like for the first time, might be able to discover something new and then want to keep kind of returning to it as well. Not just,
So that one's kind of splitting the difference. It's like enough palatable, universally kind of greenlit in the community that you've got some there, but then enough diversity or new stuff to sort of challenge the people to check out new things.
I think so. And I think in general, like for most like college and like community radio, you want to be more kind of independent and kind of more palatable, but like, yeah, finding this balance, but then also what you said, making sure it's like a program that makes sense for what you're playing, right? You don't want to suddenly have like, someone who plays more like alternative and rock music and such suddenly reggae music, just to push that in there, unless it fits in. And there's a way to kind of like segue that in there. But
From black metal to reggae, all of one.
yeah.
Okay. So it really still does come down to the programmers too, in your sense. Okay. Maybe is anyone? Yeah, someone who hasn't answered.
Yeah, so I run a station dedicated to Indigenous musicians, so they're already mostly independent, which I love. So I'm able to prioritize first come, first serve, and I'm able to listen to all of them. Thankfully, I don't get hundreds a week. That sounds terrifying. But so I don't prioritize based on their label or anything like that. Like I said, most of them are independent. But if I have to do extra work and find their album art or reading their files or if it's a WAV or MP3, then I'll maybe wait till later in the week or something. So
Okay.
I will also reply to them and let them know future include this and this and this and
Okay.
do something.
That's awesome. So you do have the time kind of that you can give that
Yeah.
feedback to try to have the next time they do this, they can go back to kind of order of received and
Yeah.
okay, that's really interesting. I'm just mindful of the time and how many prompts there are. Do you wanna, if anyone has what they feel like is the most different thought compared to what's been said?
Just strategies. Can we talk about strategies? Because I don't think we've talked about that yet.
The strategies for
Yeah, how to find the second question on your second.
um
How do you?
oh yes. So what you are prioritizing? Oh, it's the strategies. Yes, please. Yes.
Because I have so little time when I'm doing this, I come up with like these totally ruthless strategies.
Yes,
So
please.
I use everything through Gmail and I
Uh-huh.
comb through with a saved search that just looks for the word CanCon, earshot. I list every major Canadian city. I look for what's the name? A couple of my favorite labels I know that are always going to give me good stuff. Like Jared Falk, for example, is one of my faves. He always gives me something good, right? So like those type of things. And then after that, everything else is deleted. And so it's so ruthless, we should say.
Yeah.
Almost everything. So I do take I leave the remnants of that stuff and it doesn't falls out of that search. And then if I have time, I'll kind of cruise through and see if that things that I should have caught, but sometimes I just don't have it.
So
But that's
you were told that. What are those key filter words?
CanCon, all the major cities, some cities and towns that I know that create a lot of good music. What else did I have in here? And some of my favorite, also I wish there was a way for me to search if you even have a download link because it drives me crazy when something pops through that filter. And
Yeah.
I read the whole damn thing and there's no freaking download link.
You're like, we're applying.
But also, what's the point of that? You know, like we're not playing your stuff, dude. But anyway,
Yeah.
but that's basically how I do that. And then my favorite ones like Jared Paul or sometimes
Okay.
Canada or whatever, right? And find them that way.
Okay, so that is really interesting. And I will say, like, for the musicians in the room, like this is really good for me to hear, like whether somebody is doing a keyword search for Canadian or CanCon and like whether both. Okay, because it's like if you
CanCon, Canadian, anything involved in that. Earshot, because my earshot will always be Canadian almost 99.9.
Yeah.
Everything is.
I mean, that might really inform, which I think we could spend super briefly on, but the top pieces of information not included, do folks just want to throw a handful out there of like, yeah.
You have an explicit track, label it obviously. If you have a clean version of that track, label it clean. Don't give me an unlabeled clean version or an unlabeled explicit version. And also, after you've labeled it clean, double check to make sure it's actually
Okay.
15 seconds into a song, there's the word was about and it was labeled clean.
So clean top track is really important to you for like the ones they want to prioritize, the songs.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Labeled explicit, was there another one in there that you said?
Labeling things clean.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Some other ones that are often missing.
So just a quick sort of related question from an artist point of view. I know when it comes to submitting music to supervisors for in sync agencies, they'll delete any message that comes with an actual file in it. They'll only accept downloads.
Yeah.
So with radio stations, I heard you mention a download, you got an obvious link. But sometimes you get MP3s attached. Doesn't matter to you. Is there a preferred do or don't? Download only, email or attached MP3?
It eats up so much space when you have all these MP3s attached.
So more, better to have a link.
Usually I'll delete the ones with attachments because they're taking up space. But
Yeah.
if it's a local artist, I will.
I also see it as amateur too.
Yeah.
So like if
Sometimes I'll send multiple emails to get through all of them.
But file of the album art is great.
Yes.
So that won't get flagged by your attachments,
But
right?
the album-
The album art won't get flagged for like an attachment. It's just.
But if you link to like a Google Drive or Dropbox, maybe you can have the album artwork in that program.
What about something like, if you're familiar with the disco program, disco.cc?
That's fine.
If you get like a
Yeah.
playlist, look at the album art songs.
Yeah, I think anything external counts as not in the attachment. Let's go back here, yeah.
I don't secondly exclusive content thing that really makes me crazy. The other thing is like,
Wait, what was the first thing?
the.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They kind of factory and I kind of like explicit things, so.
Right.
The other thing is, I feel like a lot of people are kind of unclear about when they actually want their release to like be added into the rotation. And then I'm like, it makes me uncomfortable because I'm like, am I playing your songs too early? Like when you actually want it out, like if you're emailing it to me and then it gets released, like the release date is in like 3 months. I'm like, okay, like do you want me to add it now to like build up like hype or like do you want me to add it later? Like I just wish people would be like clear about that.
I have a follow-up on that. So our submissions page, not to toot my own horn, I don't generally like to do it. I've received compliments from some musicians I know personally. I love your form. I basically tell people up front, we prioritize people who fill in the form. And it basically also has a, hey, is this a pre-release that you want us to play? Is this a pre-release you want us to have in the library for the release date?
Yeah.
Etc. Or is this already been released? And those who fill in the form are great.
Okay.
Versus those who just send me an email.
I will say, so for some clarification there for musicians in the room, the term add date should be when it's allowed to be added to the library for programmers to have access to it. Yes, regardless of the album's release. So you could have a release if you have like it's coming out, whatever, but if you use the language add date, then would that be fairly universally understood by music directors as a safe date for it going into the library for programmers to have access to? Okay, so that's something that when I.
Another little nitpicky thing, I know all album release dates now are on Fridays, but for some reason, the US college thing is always Tuesday.
Yeah.
So if you can make it to the closest Tuesday that you're allowed, that's when I could only do music on Tuesdays. And so I don't know if it's that Friday, like if I'm allowed to put out 3 days early.
Okay.
That Friday, or do I have to wait till the next Tuesday after Friday? So.
And that charting thing is like standard across the music department. So I think, right, like probably most music directors would find there to be some advantage for that timeline. Okay.
Has RIYL been mentioned?
Because we haven't went into what's the perfect submission look like. And, okay.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
that as a thing.
Yeah. Maybe this, one more thought over here.
Yeah, I just had some concerns about the keyword search thing. Do you ever miss out on indigenous content from marginalized people?
Oh, that's right. That was an awesome issue. So, I mean, that's part. But a lot of people who are just submitting music will say it's very news. So yeah, I do. That's in my industry.
Okay, I was just wondering because I know that sometimes like a lot of independent artists that I see some stuff in they they'll have some work.
Stuff falls through. I guarantee it. Right. But if you only have an hour a week, it's stuff happens. So you have to. That's why music artists are here, right? Because they need to know what time to do so that they can follow that.
Right.
And I think what we'll do, because we will definitely run out of time on this conversation, which is an amazing problem to have. I'll in the Slack, which hopefully a lot of people have access to, but we can figure out another way for the other people. But I'll make a Google Doc with my prompts in it. I'll share the one that we see here so people can populate it with answers. So it could be like a growing thing that's just a bunch of resources possibly. So if anyone's feeling like we're really strapped and you have a burning thing, but so I think what are the top missing pieces and what is the perfect submission? I would love to hear your opinion on perfect submission for sure.
For me, in the subject line, it's say music submission because I don't need it to have some weird catchy title. Add the day that you want it to be started to be played, so add date and obviously your name and
in the subject line.
In the subject line.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the one sheet attachment because I can usually save that attachment so our programmers can also read it. And I'll artwork somewhere either attached or in your download link, which download link could be your distro, Dropbox, Google Drive. If you have a paid WeTransfer account because the non-paid WeTransfer expired, and I might get that email and it will be already expired. Bandcamp codes, that kind of thing. And then recommended you feel like, or like sounds like if you can compare yourself to something that's great for everyone to know, maybe they like that artist, so like, hey, maybe I'll play that. It's like having that is great for programmers.
Okay.
MP3.
Can I add one more for
Yeah.
that? So like I sometimes still have a download link.
Yeah.
And I've read through the whole thing, but it's not obvious that it's a single.
Yeah.
And I have a rule at the station, we don't accept singles.
Yeah.
You don't have
So
to.
then, so it drives me crazy when I finally click on that and there's just this stupid single sitting there.
Yeah. Make it clear if it's only a single.
I was like, I feel like, yeah, single submission or like album submission, yeah.
I'll quickly add that I first thought it was so polite when people emailed to be like, would you want my album? Like, here's somewhere you can listen and then you can let me know if you want me to send it. And I'm like, dude, just send it. Now I know. Don't be polite.
Because a lot of times I'm like not reviewing at the same time I'm downloading, so I'm like downloading everything inside of me or someone on my music library reviewing. So that's not happening at the same time as I'm looking at your email. So I'm trying to download, have a lot of information later kind of thing.
Okay. Any other ones that people would add to the perfect submission?
Yeah, just like a quick thing that our station does is we have, I don't know if other stations do this, but we have, and a lot of our staff and really active community members keep these like business cards on it, and they have like how to submit your music, and it has steps on that, and it's to promote local artists and finding the artists in the well if you have someone who are going to an event and that kind of thing. We have a ton of them and we just hand them everywhere, and it has very specific instructions on how to submit. This if that helps any other station.
Yeah, and we have one on our website that like gives people a rundown your best possible. Yeah.
To get people by track numbers in song titles. So that's the numbers.
You don't like them?
Well, like it'd just be called track one.
Yeah, track.
Oh, only track numbers, no song titles.
No.
That's
That's worse. That's so much.
But you don't like there
But-
being,
Oh, so like you have the song title,
yeah.
which should just be the song title, but sometimes the track numbers in there rather than in the track.
Yeah. Meta does that for you anyway.
Oh, but if you open it in Google Drive, I find that if you download it, it just sends up a pile of song names and you have to.
I do like the track number like 01.
Yeah.
Name.
Yeah, I think this is actually one where it probably divides depending on how people.
File names talking about the metadata.
Oh, okay.
Metadata is right.
Also, those some independent artists are not gonna have metadata in there at that stage, unfortunately,
So
right?
are we talking meta? Because that's actually super important.
Yeah.
Because
I spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna quickly say that I'm not every like musician, especially super independent or from underrepresented groups, are gonna have the wherewithal or capacity or knowledge of how to properly do metadata. So in my feeling, that's one I would let them be not amazing at, and hopefully each station would have their standards for editing metadata so that it meets your criteria, because
even downloading from your transistor doesn't get good.
no, I mean, you're gonna like an artist is gonna try to be perfect and then they're gonna not be perfect.
I just wish it was consistent.
Yeah. I want to, so we have like the stuff from some of the stuff from perfect submissions and some of the missing pieces of info. I'll add, I really find genre helpful. I know that people like to have this, it sounds like this other band, but it just makes me mad when I don't agree. So personally, yeah, I'm like, you don't sound like MJ Lenderman. I'm sorry. And I may be mad and now I'm having a moment. So I like genre personally. That was enough for me to like steer towards programmers, and I can let them decide it individually. So that's just a little point of difference for myself.
Talking still email subject line.
Yeah.
Body.
Well, no, in the body of the email. I just found like if I don't know the genre, I already don't know if it's something we don't have a lot of.
Right.
So if we're trying to like just get enough and we are like, we want loud and no one has told me if this is loud and I can't tell it's like the bottom of your Bandcamp in another browser, then like it's going to be hard for me to like prioritize it. So I think putting genre right in there personally would be really helpful. And yeah, I think it's wild how many we're missing, like where they're from, whether they're Canadian at all. And like, if you are like FemCon or Indigenous, like, please let us know if you're comfortable disclosing it. Cause I don't want to like identify somebody or label somebody, right? So,
My station uses something called Mood, and I don't know if any other stations do this, but we're in the process of like trying to standardize like how we get our submissions and stuff. But I find that a lot of people don't include a mood or in their biography or whatever, they don't tell us exactly how they sound. Do you think genre is like a good replacement for mood, or
It probably depends on people's music libraries, right? And what they're including in info in their databases, I'm guessing. Yeah, I don't know.
Not like professional. This is like music department staff, I think I just run a show, but like I have a full submission form, I see the stuff from like person who sends it over, I haven't heard the word do too much, I've usually seen genre and recommend it if you like, so I can kind of figure if it fits in.
Yeah, we should go to the musician side, I think for sure. Just so that we're being fair. The one that had the most, I think, was the how you determine who you send your albums to. I think we figured out that like nobody really had strong feelings about the deal breakers. So yeah, let's do a little bit about like how do you determine who to send your albums to, and like how do you find the contacts of stations in the first place. So who had some thoughts on that?
I use the earshot charts. There's 51 stations listed there, I believe. And I just go through and every time I do it, and I'm kind of like you, I've been doing it since the early 2000s. And I just go through and I then go to the website and make sure the music director is, if there's been a change or something, I try to make sure. And then I basically send them out via there. So that's where I get the.
So you send them out using the earshot machine system kind of thing, or do you send them like
I send individual emails.
Individual emails, yeah.
To go.
Oh, gotcha.
Stay in contact.
Yeah.
Just get all the music directors from there. And every time I do it, I just go to the station's website and see if there's a new music director or not.
Okay. Other systems people are using to determine. Yeah.
I'll go on various community radio station websites and see if there's relevant shows, whatever the album is. And there's an actual person who would play it, you know. So if you're, let's say I found on an electronic record a few years ago, they didn't seem to have any electronic show, I'm not gonna send.
Okay. So you will straight up not submit it if you don't see the potential in the.
Unless they make it really easy.
Okay.
So if they have a form on their website, then yeah.
Okay, and so I would say there's one more piece in that, which is if your websites and program schedules are not up to date with the genres of the shows, or they're not accurate or not capturing everybody, there could be someone like that that's not sending to you because they don't know you have a reggae show or a loud show. So that's probably a learning piece for.
There's no say in that case, I would also just send it to the ballot show.
Oh, we send directly to the show in addition?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Don't have a genre show. Any other, yes.
So my experience is a bit dated, but I would prioritize markets that I would go to tour through or play shows at. And I would also audit charts as well. I would go through each station and make sure that they were actively charting before sending them at that time of physical release, because mail was expensive. Now that it is primarily digital, I don't feel like there's much of a risk to just sending everyone just a link to the earshot. But I do want to like be able to prioritize the different markets of places that you want to ultimately go to work through, or if those stations have shows that have like a niche subculture that's in line with what you're trying to promote, then like send it there. And even if that station isn't actively charting, I would still service those stations just to connect with that community.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Okay. Even if they're not charting, you might still want to service that station. I do like, I had a lot of the same points. I think for mine, I start with the stations that submit to the charts. Like I look at who reported to earshot and I go back a couple weeks in case anybody didn't that week, but has historically. And then from that, a subcategory is if they use the distro, I'll do my distro ones. I kind of do any that have the same method. I try to bundle them. But I use the charts, and then after the charts, I would say that it's my either aspirational, like cities I would like to go to, or my favorite cities. And so I always send my albums to Golden, even though their radio station is not reporting, because I just straight up like Golden, BC. And when I go someday, they're going to know me because I'm one of the few people always sending them stuff properly. So yeah, I think like if you are a station that would like to attract artists to come tour to you and be a stop, especially if you're like maybe in a competitive area, as music directors or stations, you might want to consider whether or not that's kind of a pitch. So send to us because you might be building that relationship with the musician and attract them by being really friendly too. Yes.
I have to say that getting an email with your link to the Earshot District definitely gives you a leg up.
Yeah.
So we don't have a music director. I have music librarians who've been trained by me through our modules for the music department. But we basically break them off into two groups: those who check the form system and those who check all the other stuff that gets sent to us. And we're actively checking the Earshot District like all the time now.
Okay.
One thing that you could even go further these days, it's kind of, you're not doing physical submissions anymore and you're trying to get it to all the stations, but there's like particular stations that you want to do an extra step with. Like, I appreciate a phone call. Like, it's really nice to know that somebody's coming in town. It really gets you top of mind in terms of like, okay, get referring to the events calendar, promo it on air on like our, breaks between sets, and so they can get some bodies and and stuff like that. So
The stations that do have music directors often have tracking hours. There may not be up to date, but like your shot charts does have tracking hours. We usually will say it's up to date, right? Or the website might say it's up to date. Or if they prefer email or phone call, but I can do it.
Anything else from the musician side of how you prioritize or strategize your mailouts? Any interesting kind of twists that people have thought of for, and I guess like general feel, if anyone doesn't use the distro as a station, you're not gonna like get mad if there's an Earshot distro link included in an email, right? Because it's not going to do anything. Like you don't need to click on it. So at first I was like, if people hate the distro and I put a distro link, they're going to be like, Jenny's a distro person and that's not cool. So like now I've stopped worrying about that. But like that was, yeah, no, literally that was on my mind, and I was worried if there were going to be strong distro feelings of distrust or love, and that I'd have to like send separate emails to two different kinds of stations. So yeah.
So I have a question, for like the radio side. Are there stations that don't participate in the Earshot distro?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone do physical at all anymore?
we do.
You still, we do currently do physical, but we need to phase physical out.
One of my favorite physical things that I've been sent, because I just love to get mail, people will send like a postcard that has like, and the album cover and a little information about it, and then the QR download link code on the postcard. So they're not sending the full CD, but it's still kind of like, oh, they sent me some mail, they know where we are. And but still, I don't have the CD now. I can say like right now because I was like, right.
A postcard is part of it.
Yes, I love that. I do. That's my favorite way to get it.
I will say like that I was really heartbroken as a musician when the last time I went to do a submission, there were so many that refused physical because I felt like my letter to a station was generally how they remembered it was me. Sometimes I had like drawings for my kids or whatever. And so it felt like I had so I love this option as a meeting, a middle spot. And I will say that like if you're sending anything physical and you're sending an email because you're trying to make it easy, just make it so definitely obvious they are the same submission, because we've had a few times where Emily's like digitizing something and I've already added it because we were dividing up the tasks of music submissions. So I think if you are sending physical art or letters, make sure there's a picture of your album cover like so super clearly to kind of connect the two. Okay, and on this, I know we're not going to have time to go to the other prompts, but I don't know that they're necessarily directly super important, but I think I want to, there was something I saw here that I wanted to ask. Oh yeah, is there like a certain amount of time that is somewhat universally agreeable for how far in advance they should send you the release before the ad date. So I know some people need more time than others, but I would love if there was like a sweet spot where somebody like myself, who it would be really hard to do staggered mail. I know there's scheduled send and all that, but like it's honestly kind of brain breaking if we have to divide it up too much. So is there sort of a standard across the sector that is somewhat manageable for everybody's unique situations? So like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 week, like, does anyone have a strong thought? Maybe even starting with you, but.
I have the capacity to do stuff a week out, but I know other stations don't.
Okay.
But I know like it's nice to get it far in advance, and I just download it and add in I change the file name to have when the date it's adding, and I'll just wait till that week.
Okay, so
But,
that's.
like, if you think about it with
yeah.
physical, sometimes if you get some a month early because they mailed it, and mail have differing times depending where it was sent. So I could see a month out being fine.
Okay, so a month that would be fine in your case. Yeah, so I say like it's good to scale probably to who needs the most time to process. If people with more resources can receive it in advance and it's not a super big deal. How far out, like, does somebody have a pretty big amount of time they need?
2 months is what I bet.
2 months?
Because of our lack of resources, 2 months is what we.
Okay, so, okay.
CDS, after another camp station, I've seen stuff they have like 6 months after, 4 months after. So.
Okay.
Smell.
So a station with resources, even a week, but under resource as much.
You get it on a Tuesday afternoon, and I'm probably get it the same afternoon.
And then I'm gonna like add some context here that like with the points earlier where people were talking about what they prioritize. If you can't do 2 months in advance, but you meet some of their criteria of like you are a marginalized, underrepresented identity, or you're mailing on behalf of one, they might cut you a break. But it also sounds like having a big promoter might move you up the chain a little faster if you don't have that rollout. But okay, but does anyone have longer than 2 months as a sort of, or is that a pretty decent example of the range?
Actually, nothing I really considered. It's just we get it in when you get it in.
Yeah, I think as a strategy for trying to chart,
Yeah,
it's everything, right?
It's like the best idea is you want to be charting at the same time to get those national charts to be able to get the next level of factor grants. So getting us all to be able to get the release at the same time is like most ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that like a station like Troy's that has a very small period of time that you're eligible for charting, I think that you might have the smallest period.
Yeah, we do
that
3
I
months. You're only they release for 3 months.
Yeah,
I'm
some
having 40 to 100 albums every week, so
Right.
I can't keep a big backlog.
A sub question of that though, is it from when you've added it?
Yes,
Okay.
from when it was at.
From when it was added. So folks in the room, this is another thing maybe to keep in mind that if we are clear about the ad date we're going for, then that might catch some of that variation between really long and really short. And for the music directors in the room that have maybe inconsistent amounts of time, honoring the ad date, if it's explicitly shared, might give us the advantage of trying to have our charts line up.
On the topic of charting, if we may, just for
Well, we've got 2 minutes, I think, so.
you only charted for 3 months.
Yeah.
I
Maybe this is a
Standards.
lunch. Well, oh yeah. Well, yeah. I think ours is
use
6.
6.
Yeah.
I think mine's more than 6, depending on if it's indigenous content or the stuff that I want to play and the longer playtime, I would get longer life. But ours is from 3 months.
3 months is also a target of like getting as many artists to chart as possible because then it's refreshing and people are getting this appearance on the chart.
I'll also add some context for the CFUV from when I was at the charting session the other day. There's also a requirement for your programmers to be playing 30% new music. So if the programmers all have to play 30% new music, you can imagine how much more eligible charting material is being submitted and why 3 months might make sense. So there's some context here for instead of like feeling salty about a station, but this was helpful for me because I didn't know that.
A lot of like US stations do 3 months as well.
Okay, yeah. Maybe because I'll share the doc in the Slack and people can kind of populate answers. I'll do a little bit reformatting, so maybe watch for it like Monday or something. I don't know, but I kind of wanted to end with like a single biggest piece of advice like whether it's philosophically, whether you want to reassure an underdog independent releaser, or if there's just something that is feeling like a burning final thought. And it was probably opened a lot of question marks and didn't necessarily solve all of the mysteries, but any final thoughts or advice?
That is the station ID and you'll be a friend on forever.
Yeah, okay, I used to do that. That's still loves. You like that? Okay. Yes. Yeah, so if any musician didn't catch that, if you have the means of sending a station ID along with your release, it's something that some stations really enjoy. And that wouldn't get flagged as an attachment or small enough, I guess.
Well,
that it's
it annoys me to see an attachment, but if I recognize it as a station ID, then I'll send next to it.
Okay,
If you're new to the station and you're brand new, and by the way, that had a really cool ID.
Yeah.
Well, I did it. I made a new one for every single station. And then I debuted at 16 on the charts that time, like on the national charts. So I think it works. Yeah.
So listening to, just really basic.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No production development.
And the thing is, like, the big promo companies make their artists do that. So if you're ever like anything from Planet Harris, they just have their artists read off like, hey, this. You'll see the 4 letters. I'm like, it's pretty basic. Like they even make.
Okay, so that was a good piece of advice. Make it personal and cute with like postcards and stuff. Do a station ID if you have the capacity, something that maybe sets you apart, but also like individually connects you with the station. Any other burning piece of advice in the room?
We have a form for station ID, so it can like be submitted and linked to, and
I will say, so every time, this is my criteria, when I go through, any station that requires me to fill out a form gets bumped to the bottom. Because I have to do all of my same type of approach for everybody, and the forms are going to take me more time and they're going to break from my ADD tunnel vision. So they're good, but
guide too.
yes, a guide is great. A
They
guide.
actually have like a national one where it's like you submit to this form, it's going to all stations where they all have access. Like we've talked about years ago, it was around. Like, and if it was like us reviewing it, that would be when the form's great.
Yes, okay, but to that point, NCRA community folks, directors, if you're gonna have one station, take one for the team and be the form that you only have to fill out one and it goes to all the stations. Somehow make us know that, because if your call letters are lower on the earshot charts and we did all of our individual mailouts and then the last form we open is the one that would have gone to every station, that's not the ideal time to find that out.
Ricky made it.
Yeah, but I had that thing happen where I found that after and I'm like,
I don't think it can be used.
but anyway, okay. Well, folks, thank you. I do have more prompts lower down. So when I share the doc, there might be some more prompts you can add some thoughts to, but hopefully this gave you some helpful kind of consideration. Thanks for coming to this session. Thanks, folks.